Why do the globalists hate white people? That's a question that was answered by Tucker Carlson in Sean Ryan's show. But there are a lot of things to take in consideration when answering this question. And we have Mads Palsvig with us here today to answer this particular question from his point of view. Welcome, Mads.
Well, thanks very much, Victor. It's good to be back on Frihetsnytt.
Yeah, and good to have you back again. And if you look at this question that Tucker Carlson spent a lot of time in this interview answering, why would you say that the globalists hate white people?
Well, I mean, first, let's just prove that they do. We have the Källa plan that was written in 1925, the Praktischer Idealismus by Källa, which basically is a plan to get rid of all the white European nations. And they should do that by mass immigration of black and brown people. And there was a Källa plan introduced in 1950. He got it first. And then every year, the politician who does most to have mass immigration of black and brown people into Europe will get that prize. Angela Merkel has won it. Several other leading politicians have won it. So this is the official policy in Europe. And why do they hate them? I think because the globalists, they want to have a global Bolshevik system. It's basically a system where, as they say in the World Economic Forum, you own nothing and be happy. Basically, they want communism, Bolshevism. They want to have a little tiny elite controlling the slaves, and we should all be slaves and own nothing. And I think they have killed so many people out in China and Japan, and I think the Asians are totally in control. The Russians are in control. They killed over 60 million Russian people. I think the main challenge for the globalists now are the Europeans and the Americans, because we still have this notion of freedom of speech, of democracy. We still believe in it, even though they have election fraud left, right, and center, and even though the Smith-Mundt Act, which was introduced in 1948, that prohibits the privately owned media to lie and the government to lie, Obama removed that in 2012. So now the governments they are allowed to lie to the population, and the privately owned newspapers and AI and Google, they are also allowed to lie. But we still have this notion of freedom and democracy in the West, and that is very dangerous to them. So they want to get rid of us. And if they can have a lot of economic migrants into Europe and the USA, and they're coming because they want to have a higher standard of living, and I don't blame them. And they're incentivized by the globalists, because the globalists, they start wars in their home countries, making it very difficult, because probably they would prefer to stay in their own country, have a nice life there if they could. But if it's war-torn and it's bombed by America, then it's probably better to go to Europe and live on welfare. And that is what's going on. And by having all these immigrants, they typically vote for the Democrats, they vote communist, they vote very left-wing, which is good for the globalists, because the globalists can control the Communist Party. And so I think that is what's going on.
Mm. Och den här artikeln om Tucker Carlson kan ni läsa om på frihetsnytt.se, men den är förbehållen för prenumeranter. Så vill du veta exakt vad Tucker Carlson säger och argumenten för varför globalisterna hatar vita och hur de går tillväga, blir då prenumerant. Då stöttar du oss ekonomiskt och du får tillgång till att läsa sådana här artiklar som bland annat den som jag och Mads diskuterar just nu. But looking at the points that Tucker Carlson also speaks about is how are they going about to eradicate the white population? For example, Tucker Carlson takes up the point of white guilt, for example. White people are expected to feel guilty for this or that that's happened in the past, and they're expected to give way for other people. And also they are apparently white people being encouraged to be suicidal in Britain, in Canada and everything. What do you say about those methods of keeping the whites down, but also diminishing the white population?
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the white guilt is, of course, for example, the slavery. It turns out that 70% of the Jews had slaves and only 0.2% of the white people had slaves. And every single slave ship was owned by Jewish people. So the Jewish Hollywood is claiming that white people were behind slavery, and then they are blaming it on the Christian white people when it was actually white Jewish people who were behind and the Jewish people are not being blamed for slavery, which they should be. So the UK government only in 2010 was finished paying compensation to the Jewish slave owners. Because when the Jews prohibited slavery because it was inhumane, then the Jewish slave owners fought the British government.
You mean that the British prohibited the slavery?
Yes, the British made it illegal to have slaves, and then the Jewish slave owners said that's unfair because we are going to lose money on that, and then they were paid compensation. And the British have only finished paying that compensation in 2010.
Mm-hmm. But if we look past just this particular topic of slave trade and who owned the slaves, what would you say that this constant propaganda telling white people that we should be ashamed of ourselves, we should have guilt towards other people, what exactly do you think it does to an entire population when they're expected to have this collective guilt?
Well, I don't know. I mean, the white people must have a secret payout for themselves. They feel good that, oh yeah, I'm not good and the other people are better than me. They have this, maybe they have a psychological payout somewhere, and they feel better. They feel that they are nice, and they are nice people because they're so nice to other people. Maybe that's why I'm not in the head on these people, but it certainly, there's a lot to be proud of by being white. You can take somewhere 90 to 95% of the inventions that have been made the last 200 years is made in Germany and north, up in Scandinavia and England and France and Benelux. 95%, everything is invented. So we have a lot of stuff to be proud of.
And what would you say is the best way to counter all these things? You take up now that we should be proud of our accomplishments or what white people have done that's been good throughout the history. But Tucker Carlson, for example, he says that we should expose the strategies and also reevaluate family, honor, sovereignty, freedom of speech. Those are the best ways to counter this anti-white agenda.
Yes, of course. I mean, it's quite ironic that you have, for example, in many countries, you have a recommendation not to go to certain countries, and then the same government are allowing illegal immigrants from those countries to come into our countries. It's so ironic. You can't make it up. And they were not invited by the people. It was not democratically decided to open the borders for tens of millions of black and brown men, no women, no children. How are they allowed to do that? How can they get away with that? And people need to fight harder against it. And I don't know why they don't, but Tucker Carlson is onto something here, I think.
Mm-hmm. And if we're looking what's happening all out throughout Europe, we have this big demonstration in Britain, for example, in London, over 1 million people demonstrating against mass migration. We have the success of Viktor Orban in Hungary. We have this rising population, there is a rising movement that says no to mass migration. The Great Replacement is now being widely discussed. And having migrants return back to their homelands are also becoming more and more popular and more tolerated in the public discourse. Would you say that something is happening to counter this?
Well, it's basically, I think probably 95 or 90% of the population don't want this mass immigration, and then you have the remaining 5 to 10%. They're basically paid bureaucrats, paid woke people to close their eyes and take the money and just allow their own country to be destroyed. There's a lot of corrupt people out there who will take the money.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Mads, for commenting on this specific topic. It can be a bit sensitive, but it's a question that needs to be raised and discussed. So thank you again for being with us here today. And thank you all for watching this program. Remember to follow us at frihetsnytt.se, but also our YouTube channel, where you can see movies like this one that you have been watching right now. I'll see you again pretty soon.